Got a Sebastian or something. Good afternoon. Calling to order the meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Elections for Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. Good to see a full house today. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Whitney, do we have anyone participating virtually? 2 people online. Thank you for those who have tuned in via the internet. We do stream every one of our meetings. We do want members of the community to know that you don't have to come to downtown Asheville to sit in on one of our meetings. Just go to our website, find the link, and participate online. Anyway, thanks to everyone who is here in person today. If you haven't had a chance to sign our guest book, I hope you will before you leave today. It is our official record of attendance at our meetings, and we do rely on everybody signing in. So without any further ado, we shall proceed with the first item on the agenda, which is the review of the minutes of our last 2 meetings. We will first review the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, August 1st. Colleagues, did everybody get a chance to take a look at these? Do you have any questions, comments? I move that we adopt the minutes of our meeting of August 1st, 2023. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The other set of minutes is from our meeting on Monday, August 14th, 2023. That meeting was held in Concord, North Carolina, and it was held during the North Carolina State Board of Elections 2023 Elections Conference. And it was a demonstration of voting systems that we all had to witness before we could proceed with changing our voting system. And I did want to note that while we did have that available virtually, one member of the community, Cheryl Williams, traveled down to Concord, North Carolina to sit on that meeting. And warms the heart. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Colleagues, I hope everybody had a chance to take a look at these. Alrighty. Seeing as everyone's had a chance to review and comment, I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of Monday, August 14th, 2023. All those in favor of the motion? August 14th, 2023. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, colleagues. The next item on our agenda today is office updates. Director Duncan.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Trying to do this better. All right, so we have lots of updates. I feel like today I really turned into that time of where there's 40 million balls that we're trying to juggle, and it's going to be going like this for a year and a half. So we are on. The first update, Jake already talked about. We attended the conference, so this year it was all staff, minus Karen, who stayed behind to work on the poll worker appointments, and all board members attended that conference. It was our first in-person conference for 3 years.
Since February of 2019, which was held at the same spot.
It was, yes. So it was great to see everyone, and we also presented at that conference on a video project that we're doing that is, it's called the North Carolina Together Video Project, where we're having election officials across from the state stand in front of monuments that represent their county and kind of show the people who are part of elections and how we're all doing the same thing together and providing voting for everyone together. So we're hoping that we can make that happen. It's a fun project. There was a lot of enthusiasm over it. So we're aiming to have that ready for January.
Director Duncan, we appreciate the leadership that you're providing the state on this. Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. The next, again, Jake talked about this, but we went through the approval process for the software for the new equipment that we got money from the commissioners for, and so that went fantastic. All the boxes are checked, and we actually have the express votes and the express vote printers at the warehouse. So we are ready to move to implementation, which is very exciting. Third, I wanted to let you all know about a positive development in our emergency planning, which was requested by Buncombe County Emergency Services and approved by IT and the commissioners, which is a web EOC, that's Emergency Operations Center. And so this is an expansion of emergency operations that is good for situations that are spread over an extended time period, like early voting, where you need a lot of people to be aware of a situation, but they can't all be there in person all of the time. So we will be piloting that definitely in the primary and possibly for the municipal election. So they've already acquired their vendor and are looking at how to integrate this into the county, and so we're lucky to be part of that. So that's, we keep expanding our emergency operations, and that's the latest development for that, and I'm excited about that. The fourth thing is that we are staffing up. So you may have seen Aggie at the front desk. We have Daphne back helping us. We have our warehouse position coming to a close soon, so we should be able to fill that position soon. We also have in-house positions that we are advertising for, so help with our tech team, training. We're starting to ramp up with that, so you're going to see more people around the office now. Next, we have photo ID cards, our voter ID cards. That program is up and running. So anyone who doesn't already have a photo ID, or maybe they just want a voter ID, can come to our office, and as long as you're a registered voter, you can get a free voter ID from our office. This is, of course, available across the state, but you do need to go to your county's office to get your voter ID.
But if you have an acceptable ID, you do not need to use one of these
That's correct.
and spend your tax dollars unnecessarily. Thank you.
That's correct. And there are, the state board's website and our website has a list of all of the acceptable ID. It's just what you would expect: driver's license, passports, things like that. There are also schools and government offices that can apply to have their ID accepted as well. So there's some extra things on that list too.
Director Duncan, can you give me an idea of what are some people showing up to take advantage of the ID here at the?
Yes, they are not big numbers. We wouldn't expect that there would be big numbers, but we are having people. We've done a lot of outreach too, and we're getting people. Not a flood though. Definitely not a flood.
Good.
Another thing that we wanted to make you all aware of is that our poll worker recruitment page on our website is updated, and it's got a lot more information than it had before, as well as a easy application process if you would like to be a poll worker. So that makes it a lot easier to share information about poll working for anyone who's interested. There's also kind of one-page documents that talk about early voting and working on election day, and there is also a video that helps people understand the responsibilities of being a poll worker. So that's a very positive development there from our recruiting department. And finally, you may have noticed the artwork in our lobby. As a team building project, we got together and we each painted a piece of the flag and then put it together in our lobby, and it came out fantastic. I love the symbolism of having different styles come together and be part of our America. So I am really happy with that. Take a look at it as you walk out of our meeting today.
Very good. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions, comments? All righty, next up on the agenda, oh, this is a big one, finalize the board calendar. We've all had it for a while. I appreciate the work that staff did pulling this whole thing together. Over 2 years of fun and excitement in one document. And it's very, very helpful in terms of planning our future sessions. Anyone have any questions or comments about our draft schedule?
I did have a recommendation.
Please,
for a
Mr. Schultz.
change. I was wondering if it would be acceptable to move the machine testing, not the dates of the machine testing, but the times of it. And the reason for that is that machine testing usually comes after the absentee ballot review. The absentee ballot reviews may take longer this year because of the photo ID. My experience, although I've only done it, I guess, maybe 3-4 times, is that it starts late in the day, since we start the absentee ballot meetings at 5:30. By the time you get over to the warehouse, everyone's kind of tired and it's been a long day. So you've got a certain number of precincts you have to test every time. And I'm just wondering if it makes sense to move it to earlier in the day so that the board and the staff are fresher. Although I recognize that it would may pose an imposition to people who have daytime 9-to-5 jobs. But I just thought last week when we were going through the machine, I guess, certification process with Prentelec, there was a lot more energy, at least that I could devote to it if it started in the morning or earlier in the day than late in the day at 6:30, 7:30 in the evening. And my recollection is, I can't be for sure about this, but my recollection is that the machine testing is recorded, videotaped, so that somebody who wanted, and I guess, I don't know if somebody could watch it online, but it might make for kind of a better machine testing process if it was done earlier in the day rather than in the evening after we've gone through absentee ballots. Again, not to change the date of the machine testing, just move it earlier in the day.
A couple things. I do want to observe that the number of absentee ballots that we will have at any given meeting this fall will be small. And it will be nothing like we experienced in the 2022 primary or general elections. And that's due to the fact that the voting population that we have this fall for Wheelerville and Woodfin is pretty small. So I don't anticipate, famous last words, but I don't anticipate any lengthy absentee meetings. So I just wanted to put that fact out there. But staff, if you could tell us why we have this scheduled in the fashion that we do.
So we had that because of trying to be open to the public, after work hours. But I definitely agree that when we did the simulated election, it was, we just were brighter, we weren't exhausted, and I don't see any issues, and I just checked in with Devin on the tech team too with moving it to the morning. We don't get a lot of attendance despite us wanting that attendance. We don't get a lot of attendance to those board testing meetings. And Glenn is correct. We were planning on, well, we tried to stream those meetings, but we were planning on trying to make a video too of how board testing works, so we could kind of share that and have that as something that's always available for people to understand how that process works. So I don't see an issue with moving it, especially Jake said, the muni, it may not be a problem. We'll just have a few ballots in our absentee meetings, and we could go over to the warehouse after. I think we'd have energy for that. But the primary and the general is a different beast. So I think moving it to the morning is a good suggestion.
Colleagues, anyone else have any comments, questions?
I noticed you have an extra day, the day after each one of those.
So the day after each one of those is if we have to carry the absentee meeting forward to the next day. We wanted to make sure that you were holding that, since there are so many absentees possible.
And that's due to the fact that our experience in 2020, we had meetings, some meetings I think lasted 3 days. We continued them. We would recess and then reconvene the next day. Again, I certainly don't anticipate that for this fall, but it could well be the case this spring and next fall.
Yeah, I don't anticipate 2020 numbers, but I anticipate big numbers like we saw in 2022. More than 2022.
Okay, so if we could take a look at the machine testing for the primary, which was,
There's one on February 6th and one on February 13th.
Yeah, so we do early voting first, the machines for early voting first, and then election day.
I should preface everything by pointing out that I would like to keep the machine testing later in the day for this fall. And the reason for that is there has been considerable discussion about the county's acquisition of new voting equipment, whether it's the Express Vote or the DS950s. And considering the amount of publicity those changes have generated, I'm suspecting that members of the community will be especially interested in attending the most immediate upcoming testing. And I concur in your recommendation that we video that and that we make it available on the website. I love the idea of having members of the public in attendance at that session where we're doing the video, where we could even show members of the community that, yeah, you can come in here, you can witness this testing. And then let's talk about doing it earlier in the day for those tests in February.
So
I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, and I want to hear from my colleagues. I'm only one person.
And I just want to point out one thing. So for the muni, we have that meeting starting at 5:30 because we don't anticipate many absentee ballots. But for the primary, we have it starting at 3:30. So you could also start that October 10th muni one early if you wanted. But again, I just don't think that it's going to take very long for us to get through. Although that is the first one, so we're going to take it really slow and make sure that everyone understands their procedures and things. But we will not have very many ballots to review.
I'm just wondering, I agree, what you're saying about the municipal elections this fall makes sense. Can we kick the can down the road and come back to this later, or do we need to vote on the entire calendar now?
Well,
I'd kick the can down the road with respect to the elections in 2024.
yes. Here's the thing about the calendar. We want to approve a calendar today. We can amend the calendar at any time. When we get additional information, things develop, we'll change the calendar. I agree with you that it does make sense to wait a little bit. We can see what our experience is this time with the machine testing and the absentee ballots and base future decisions on that experience. I like Director Duncan's idea about doing the next meeting at 3:30 and then have the machine testing right after that. We could probably have the whole thing wrapped by 6 o'clock. But what do y'all think?
I like that idea a lot. I think 3:30 for our next meeting and then be able to do the testing after that makes a lot of sense.
I have no opinion. I'm flexible.
Thank you, sir.
I'm always more agreeable to have it later so people can come. I think everybody here might like to come. There are a lot of people that are not here that might like to come.
Understood. And yeah, the reason for the suggestion is just to make sure that those who can attend the machine testing will have every opportunity to do that.
I do like the idea of videoing it, or
Oh, we're definitely doing a video.
if it could be,
We're definitely doing
if
it.
it could be a live stream, that would be marvelous also.
Well, it's a meeting. It will
Yeah,
be.
we
It
have
will
been
be live
able to
streamed.
do that in the past, yep.
But the beauty of the video is that anyone who visits our website will be able to see, oh, this is what they do in Buncombe County to test machines before every election. And that should help everybody. Staff, board, community members, the works. So I sympathize. I'm with you 100%. I want people at the meetings. I'm so glad to see so many people here today. But I am, that next meeting, it's not the next meeting, but I am real concerned about people having access to the testing. And I do like the idea of moving our regular meeting up a little bit, the substance of which will be minimal. We will be reviewing absentee ballots. I don't expect other actions or business decisions would necessarily be a part of that meeting. But then we could get right into that machine testing and give everybody a chance to see it. Okay, so, do I get a motion on this?
So
Anyone-
you're proposing to move the meeting on October 10th to 3:30? Okay.
Correct. 3:30, and then, we're assuming it'll be a fairly brief meeting, maybe an hour or so, a little more than that, just as we wade through the absentees the first time. Then we recess and go down to 50 Cox Avenue, invite everybody to come along too. In fact, one of the things that I would want to do is let members of the community know that we are going to have that recess, and we will be reconvening at 50 Cox Avenue. So if you just want to go to the machine testing and not come to the early part of the meeting, you'll have that option. So let's figure out what we can do to get information out to the general public, so that, and remind them that they can always observe it online as well.
We could put it on public input.
Good.
So, do you want to also move the primaries to earlier in the day? Is that also being?
No, we don't want to make that decision right now. We want to see what our experience is in a few weeks.
Okay, so the absentee meetings are the statutory ones, so that 3:30 time would stick for now. Of course, you can change. But the machine testing time is easy to switch to. So I just wanted to
Good.
point that out. But we will, with the statutory ones, we really like to nail those down because we put out notices and things way ahead of time. So if you change those, it has a little bit more of an impact. But we have plenty of time.
How far in advance do you publish them?
It depends on the notice. We usually minimum 30 days before. There's some that are where we notice them and then they run once a week for 3 weeks at a time. So it's some time.
So if I'm understanding right, we could even wait till December if we needed to in order to decide on 24s. Okay,
Yep,
Right,
that's
right.
correct.
We just want to see what happens in October.
sure.
Because it was noted, our absentee process will be a little different because there are new elements in the process this time. We'll use that experience to inform our future decisions. Alrighty, then with respect to the meeting on October 10th, we're going to change that to 3:30 p.m. And then we're going to do everything we can to let the public know that it's actually a two-part meeting. You can attend either or both.
That would make the machine testing at 5:30.
5:15 or so. And everything depends on how quickly we can get through the absentees. So I think we can give a ballpark, approximately 5:30, but we're not going to have a hard and fast number on that.
We could have a long recess.
Or it might be a deal where we say 5:30, the absentees take us so long that we end up starting the meeting late. We just don't know. You could schedule it for 7 and then know that you'd be okay. But, anyway, any other elements in the calendar that people have questions about, comments, suggestions?
No, about the only one that I can think of is we do have a lot of meetings. The absentee meetings are all scheduled for 3:30.
Right, right.
And
Because we're anticipating lengthy sessions.
if that does not happen, can the absentee meetings after that possibly be shifted?
Yeah, again, all of this can be amended. There are some things we have to do on some dates, but the time of day is up to us. And yeah, I prefer to let experience guide us. So if we find that the absentee ballot numbers are lower than we're expecting, yeah, let's change it.
I do want to comment that I am certainly proving that the statutory references are available for each meeting.
Yes.
That has a statutory, and there it is in bold blue with a hyperlink,
Exactly, it's the hyperlink that
and
you
it's
want.
just hyper good.
It is hyper good. No, this is a great document, and again, I thank staff for compiling it. I know it helps all 5 board members, but I think it helps everybody. And with that, I move that we approve the calendar, the Board of Elections schedule for August 2023 to January 2025, drafted by staff. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, everybody on staff who helped put this thing together. Very, very helpful. Next up on the agenda is the appointment of precinct judges. Director Duncan.
All right, so the next stage here is the appointment of the precinct judges. So I was going to kind of give it just a broad overview of the process, and then Karen will go through her internal process with you all, and then we can go to the approval process. So first,
Oopsie.
Sorry. So first of all, the appointment process for judges in North Carolina is only for election day. So this is not, we're not looking at early voting workers, we're just looking at election day workers. And we're looking at the judges, chief judge and party judges. Something that I really, really want to highlight this time is the fantastic collaboration that we have had with both parties. It has not always been this way. The last appointment cycle, we really worked to build that relationship. We were able to acquire a recruiting position, that's Karen Ray's position, and that really added the capacity to have good communication with both parties, and it has been really wonderful, and I thank you for that. So we have I hope I'm not stealing too much of Karen's thunder, but I'm just really excited that we have 98% of the slots filled. So that's only 5 slots that we don't have filled, and that is just, it's amazing. And not only that, but by Karen working with the parties on the appointments, she has been able to call these workers, make sure that they understand their obligations and what they're signing up for, and we're really hoping that that really reduces our attrition rate, because you might remember from the last appointment cycle, we had over 90% of the slots filled, but only 52% of those ended up working. And we think that that was because of not understanding the expectations and the appointments. And so I think that we're going to have made a lot of progress there and have been much, much more efficient. So it's a lot of work to make these appointments. Finding the people, talking to them about the work that goes into poll workers, and impressing upon them the gravity of what they're doing. And so I'm very excited and confident about the recommendations that we're going to be making to you today. We've also got a lot of positive feedback on our communication with the poll workers themselves too. So that was reassuring and was a good reward for the work that we're doing. It's an unimaginable amount. So you're going to see 235 names on this list just to give you an idea of how big it was. And I definitely want to thank Jeff Rose and Doug Brown for leading the collaboration with us on this. I think that we're doing making great strides in having a good relationship that way, because we all need to work together, and we're showing that. And I that's something, I know I say this all the time. I'm a broken record about this, but that's something that I love so much about working in elections and being in the role that I'm in, because people don't have to hope for an atmosphere of where people are working together, all kinds of people. It happens here, and we keep demonstrating that in every place that we touch, and I love that. So Karen, again, will talk about details of how the slots actually get filled, but we depend on whether a person is in precinct, their experience, how many elections they've gone through, and then positive performance. And of course, you see us a lot. You're understanding the process from staff level, so you interact with staff a lot. But for most people, the vast majority of voters, their interaction with voting is with the poll workers. That is the face of elections. And so it is extremely important that we have people in those roles who are projecting the honor that it is to be in that role. So with that, I will turn it over to Karen to talk more detail.
Guess I'll be here if that's okay.
Please.
Okay. I've got can everybody hear me? Is that on? Okay, thank you. So I wanted to do this in 2 parts. I wanted to talk first of all a little bit about the statute and the sort of the very official process that we go through, and then I wanted to turn it sort of more internal and how that worked for me and what that process looked like from my desk. So for those of you that don't know how this process works, this is driven by the statute. General Statute 163, Article 5 deals with precinct election officials, rather a mouthful for what we all call poll workers in our everyday life. And Article 5 sets out a process. It sets out a process for nominating these people, for appointments, which the board will go on to make today. It also describes the qualifications those people need to have in order to be nominated. It talks about the oath that they will need to take, and it also talks about the process for filling any vacancies that exist. So the process begins with the two parties putting forward names of people to serve as precinct election officials. And this particular process that we're going through today is only for judges. So we do have names for people to be assistants, but we're not going to appoint them today. The board at the end of today will appoint one chief judge for each precinct and two party judges, one that will represent the Republicans and one that will represent the Democrats. So the qualifications that the statute lays out, and let's take a moment to just remind ourselves that this statute is a very old statute. We found out today from the state board that the first record of this being discussed in session was 1901. So some of the language is early 20th century, and it doesn't have great applicability to modern day society. So the first thing that they have to be is a registered voter. That's very straightforward. They also have to be a resident of the precinct in which they're being nominated. They then have to be literate. So we can imagine that maybe in 1901 there were people that, more people than there are now, that did not or could not read and write. I think if I could change something now, I would make it computer literate, because that would be much better for what we need. And also in 1901, we all had a reputation with good repute or ill repute, and the statute requires they must be of good repute. So the statute invites them to nominate, each party can nominate two people to be a chief judge and two people to be a party judge. Those names then come to me. And the first thing that I do is I take the names of everybody that wants to be a chief judge or has been nominated to be a chief judge. The reason we want to look at the chief judges first is that is the key person in the precinct. That person is the one who will manage the precinct that day. They have charge of the ballots, the keys to the tabulating machine. They are responsible for all the election supplies, and they're also the manager of the people in the precinct. So we want to find people with very, very specific skills. We're looking for people that are detail-oriented and organized, people that follow rules strictly. I like to say in training, don't do it the Sinatra way. It's not my way. It's the way that it says in the rule book. You cannot be a little bit flexible with how you do things. They have also got to be able to manage the people, make sure that people are getting breaks and that they're rotating throughout stations. They've got to be calm if there's a stressful situation, if there's an issue that comes up. They've got to manifest confidence and competence. And this sets the tone for the whole precinct then. If voters come in and they find that the precinct is being run well, it's in good order, they are going to have confidence in the process that's going forward. The same with the workers. If they see that their chief judge knows what they're doing, has things running smoothly, they're going to feel that they're part of a good team. So this is a very key person that we want to make sure we've got the best person for the job. So I go down and I put the chief judges into that slot according to who's been nominated. If only one person's been nominated, it's fairly straightforward. That person, unless there'd be a reason not to select them, that person will be the chief judge nomination for that precinct. But as you can imagine, sometimes you get two names. Now, if the two names come from the same party, if the party puts forward two people, and to tell me which person they would choose as number one for the chief judge and which person for number two. And then I follow that recommendation. If I get a recommendation from or nomination from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, now I've got two people who are really bidding against each other for that chief judge slot. And I look at three things. I look at precinct. Which precinct do they live in? If they're in precinct, that gives them a very big check mark, because the statute has a preference for people working in precinct. I look at past experience. Have they worked before? Even if they've been an assistant, they've got a familiarity with the process. They know what a precinct looks like. They know how the process works. They may have even worked in a different county or a different state. That still gives them a little bit of an edge over somebody that has never been a poll worker in their life before. And the last thing I look at is performance. And we have two ways of verifying or looking at someone's performance. We have a more serious level, which is an incident report. So when the precinct is running, if something happens during the day, which is something serious, workers would be required to fill out an incident report. And this report would say what happened, who was involved, what the solution was, did they call our office, did somebody need to come out and help. I go through all of those incident reports at the end of the election, and I weed out the ones that are directly related to personnel matters. And I keep those so that I've got a record of anything that happened that we need to know about. And the less formal one is that we do a survey of all of the poll workers at the end of the election, and we ask them to give feedback. How did your team work together? Were you a good team? Did you all collaborate well and work well? Or were there issues? And then again, I take those comments and I keep those comments so I can see who worked well together and who would be a good person to have as a chief judge in the future. Sometimes people will tell me, hey, this one person was only an assistant, but they would make a fantastic chief judge in the future. And I'm underlining that. That's a great recommendation. So I look at those 3 things, and between the 2 nominations, decide who would be the best person to be that chief judge. If they're both good, and I think both of them would be wonderful at doing that job, I will ask one of them to work out of precinct. So they'll still be asked to be a chief judge, they just won't be an in-precinct. If only one candidate is really a very good nomination, then I might ask the other person if they would be a party judge, so the next tier down in the precinct. That gets me all of the chief judges, and then move to the party judges. Party judges are a lot easier because only that party can nominate people to be a party judge for them. So I don't have to compare the 2 parties' candidates against each other. The parties will rank them. If they've got more than one person, they'll tell me, I like this person best, I like this person second best, and I will take that recommendation. The statute does ask that you have no more than 2 judges. 2 judges must be in precinct. Only 1 judge can be out of precinct. That's another one of the statutory rules. We try our very best to do that, but it is not always possible. Some of our precincts had no judges nominated. 681 Newfound Community Center, not a single person lived in precinct. So we do our best to follow the statute, and then there are times when we just have to be practical and say at the end of the day we have to run an election here, so we will have to go ahead and choose out of precinct people where it's necessary. So moving to what that looks like at my end, when I have received all these names and I've put the names all onto a spreadsheet, the next thing that, as Corinne mentioned, now we've got the capacity for me to be able to call these people. And unlike in the past, we just got this list, we handed it to the board and said, please approve it. And then months later, we found out that 52% of these people actually didn't want to do the job or couldn't do the job or were not going to be available. So now I've been able to call all these people, and I took a very quick look before the meeting. I made phone calls to about 310 people in the last month, so that's a lot of phone time. So there's only 235 names on the list. You're wondering who else was she calling? Well, these were the people that couldn't do it for whatever reason. They're not available on the training dates, they're not available on election day, or they just didn't like when I described the job to them. They said, that's not really for me. So amazingly, the 2 parties between them submitted over 500 names of people to be poll workers. And so that is just a tremendous effort. Absolutely, a round of applause for the effort that was made. There are precinct chairs I can see here today, and I know that a lot of you made those phone calls and contacted those people. And Kathy Klein and Steve Holland were the 2 key players who were collaborating with me. And we did a lot of phone calls together, we did a lot of emails, and I really want to thank you both so much because this was very, very successful, I think. So very happy to be in the situation that we're in now. The names that were not chosen to be judges will automatically be invited to be assistants. So they will be asked to work no matter what. So I think all I have left to do, Chairman Quinn, is I have the list of people that I recommend for these. We have 235 names for 240 positions, so a remarkable situation that we only have 5 vacancies. And I'd like to pass those around and ask you to take a look at them, and hopefully everybody will be approved to be a precinct election official. So
Thank you, Karen Ray.
I've got 2, and so I'll start at both ends, so it will speed up a little
Director
bit.
Duncan.
I just wanted, I'm not sure if we mentioned or not, just, and I think most people in the room know, but these are 2-year appointments. So this will be the municipal election, the primary, any second primaries we may have, and the general election that these people are being appointed for.
Right, and these 2-year appointments parallel the term of this board. The board was sworn in July. We get to be here for a month, and then we appoint election officials. So 2 years down the road, could end up with a totally new cast of characters. But this is the cast for the next 2 years. Do we have 2 copies of the document?
One's marked duplicate.
I haven't seen this. Go ahead, colleagues, take a look. I did want to thank the staff for the incredible amount of effort that was put into this. The fact that there are 5 blanks and 235 names filled in, with everyone who was contacted knowing exactly what this appointment entails, is incredible. We have never, ever, ever been close to this historically. And so it's my expectation that this roster will be fairly stable going forward, because everybody knows. Staff historically has scrambled like mad in the weeks before an election to fill vacancies. Over 300 phone calls. Karen Ray, I believe the work that you've put into this now is eliminating the need to do so much work come January and February. Thank you so much. A lot fewer surprises, and we hate surprises in this business. Wow. Also want to thank Steve Holland and Kathy Klein, and for the 2 parties working so hard with staff here to make this a successful venture. This is progress, ladies and gentlemen. This is the way Buncombe operates. I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it and talking about it. Y'all are really cool, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking this process seriously and making it work. It takes many, many hands, and seeing so many hands here, the future is bright. Thank you. Wow. And eventually I'll look at these names and see what now the beauty of it is, well, this is staff doing the work. This isn't political. These are appointments made on behalf of the political parties, but this is being done with objectivity.
Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Aceto.
just a question for Ms. Ray. Tell me a little more about your experience with the nomination of unaffiliateds. It seems to me to be a significant thing, since we have so many, the majority of our registered voters now are unaffiliated. And I see that some effort was made to fold these folks in. Just talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So the statute doesn't say that the nominated people have to be a Republican or Democrat. They can be any party. It's up to the 2 party chairs to decide whether that person is somebody that they want to nominate. And in many cases, I think we have to recognize that, as Mr. Aceto mentioned, the majority of our voters are unaffiliated. So I think as we're going through the pool of possible workers, we are going to come across a lot of people who are unaffiliated. It's then up to the party to decide, is that unaffiliated person more aligned with our side or the other side? And both parties have nominated unaffiliated people. You'll see them on in both columns. Both the Republican and the Democratic Party judges have a mixture of unaffiliated voters, and that is perfectly allowed under the statute. And both party chairs have seen this list and given their approval to it. So.
And 3 chief judges, unaffiliated. Excellent. Director Duncan.
I just wanted to give the context of those numbers. So for Buncombe County, we have a little over 204,000 registered voters, which is amazing and awesome. 85,000 of those are unaffiliated. So that's our biggest percentage, which is 42%. For the Democratic Party, we have 72,000, almost 73,000. That's 35%. For the Republican Party, we have 44,500, and that's 22%. And then we have the Libertarian and Green Party making up the last 1%.
Has anyone registered with the No Labels Party yet?
I don't believe registered.
Okay. Just so you all know, that was
Not here.
authorized by the North Carolina State Board of Elections about 10 days ago. The No Labels Party.
But it's not a party, right?
I haven't seen anything about, I haven't seen any structure, but there it is. Mr. Aceto sat through that State Board of Elections meeting
Fascinating.
and was fascinated by it. Almost as fascinated as he was by the dazzling demonstration of the voting systems.
Fascinated and dazzled are two different things, but we talked. We won't go into it. Ms. Wright, also, you were kind to go through the statutory requirements of qualification of the judges, and I very much appreciate how you have led off with that and explained it, being, of course, that you are an attorney, or at least I don't know that you're licensed here, but you were. I just wanted to give you a shout. In California, I believe, and other places, that you had big law firm experience, and you bring quite a significant legal perspective to your job. Appreciate that very much. And the qualifications of a chief judge. In Buncombe County, we aspire to fold merit and history into our appointments. That's not in the statute, and it perhaps is not the case in many, if not most, of our North Carolina counties. Many of whom, if not most, are inclined to go simply to party affiliation by default. And I think it's also worth mentioning that we have this merit aspect to our selection process, and I think it's fairly unique, is it not, Ms. Duncan? Because you would have a broader experience with the rest of the. I don't know that other people take as many things into account as we do in this county in appointing our chief judges.
I definitely cannot speak for other counties. I unfortunately don't have a broad perspective on how other counties do their appointments. But it is abundantly apparent to me that it is important, very important to other counties, just as it is to us, that those people represent their counties in a professional manner. So I would conjecture that they do take past performance, especially, into account.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions, comments? Karen Ray, thank you. Thank you for putting all this together. Most impressive. It's really a departure from what we've seen historically, and I appreciate that. And I move that the board approve the precinct election officials for Buncombe County, August 2023 to July 2025, the chief judges and party judges that are appointed under Section 163-41 North Carolina General Statutes, as prepared by staff. All those in favor of that very wordy motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. And Karen Ray, thank you, thank you, thank you. I would be honored to sign this thing and pass it along.
Miss Ray, I do have one question. What happens regarding our responsibility for those 5 positions that aren't filled?
So the parties still have the opportunity to send me names in, and those vacancies can be filled, and it is the chairman who can go ahead and approve those after the fact. So any unfilled vacancies that still remain closer to the election, I will be filling those. So, and quite honestly, I don't think that's going to be a problem when we only have 5 at this point, and I have still 200 names of people that haven't been appointed. So that should be the easiest job
Careful.
out of the times that I have worked doing this will be the easiest one. So.
Yeah, I would encourage those of you who know people in the community who are interested in working on the elections to contact the office. We have a whole lot more appointments to make. Actually, I was talking to some friends last night who said, Jake, what can I do to help out? I said, are you kidding? Call the office. We got a long way to go. But boy, oh boy, we are off to a great start. I appreciate that. I'm wondering if there are any comments or questions that members of the public might have for the board or staff. If you have any, now would be the time to ask them. I see a hand in back. Could you please identify yourself and ask your question?
I'd just like to thank Karen Ray, because she was really nice to work with.
All right. Thank you. That was an endorsement of Karen Ray's work.
Well, it goes both ways.
It
There's
does.
many people out there that helped me tremendously.
It's 4:30. I told my wife I'd be lucky to be home by 7. This is fantastic. This is unlike anything I've experienced in the past when it comes to election official appointments. Ladies and gentlemen, our next meeting, as we know from our recently approved calendar, is scheduled for Tuesday, September 12th, 5:30 p.m. in this meeting, in this meeting room. And if there is no more business to come before this board, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you a ton.
About that.
Yeah, the fun part is now we're gonna get these things out of here.
No, gee.
The meeting, I'll clarify, the meeting on September 12th is at 5:30. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Keep on coming to our meetings. That's it, Ms.